And welcome into the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. We got a whole lot going on the program today. Jared Stillman will be with us at 7 o'clock for his weekly visit. Jeff Fisher will be with us at 7:30. So we'll get into some old Titans tales and the Nashville Cats and their playoff game coming up this weekend in Clarksville with him at 7:30. And Teron Davenport with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit, talking all things Tennessee Titans. And we have an additional week of weekend winners, which we'll get into a little bit later in the program as well. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are we doing? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I know people are very interested in my medical updates, so I will just let the people know that I saw my personal care physician yesterday, and she's putting me on allopurinol. So now some people with gout look at allopurinol like it's like, carte blanche. You can do whatever you want now. I just want you to know that I'm going to be more responsible than that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, some people are like, "Oh,
talking
yeah,
no beer for like a year."
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, some people take that stuff. They're like, "Oh yeah, all the beer, all the shellfish, all the red meat." I will not do that. I will be, I will live my life in moderation. That's right.
Selective. That's a good way to put
my
it.
My food still hurts, by the way.
It's not good. Did they give you any sort of idea when that might stop?
I mean, not necessarily, but I'm going to start taking that today, and on top of the non-steroid anti-inflams that I'm still taking. So, like, it's gotten a little better.
That's good. That's good. Improvement is good.
There.
Ian Safar, how we doing? Yeah. What's going on?
Doing good. Happy Friday to everybody, and happy birthday, 6th birthday to our older daughter May.
Nice.
Today she
happy
turned
birthday.
6.
Nice.
So big weekend planned. Kind of hang out today. Go to the zoo tomorrow.
Sweet.
With some friends.
That's
so
a great birthday.
That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Happy birthday indeed. We'll take your well wishes on the text line. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Joe, we're going to get into the NBA Finals here in just a second. But I do want to start with this. It's been probably a couple year-long plight for this program at this point, and something you've really been trying to get me to do for a long time. And I have to say, yesterday, I did it. I finally just sat down, and I did it. And I sat down and I watched Office Space, Joe. And I'll just give you a kind of a brief synopsis of my thoughts. I have ranked my top 3 favorite Office Space characters. Lawrence, Peter's neighbor, coming in at number 1. When he said the quote, "I believe you'd get your ass kicked for saying something like that," I lost it on the couch. And it was very funny. The fact that he also looks like Travis Tritt in the 90s adds to the hilarity of it. Lawrence coming in at number 1 as my favorite character. Bob Slidell, number 2, the consultant, my second favorite character in there. The what would you say you do here? Really enjoyed that. Frankly, that guy and everything he's in just has a direct path to my funny bone. So that one was no different yesterday. I love that guy. So he's number 2. And then Milton coming in at number 3. First off, I had known that guy basically from Dodgeball. He's the same dude's in Dodgeball. But when he started just obsessing over the stapler, it was hilarious. And I knew that the ending of the movie, and I'm not going to spoil it for everybody, but the ending of the movie, I could kind of see coming as the movie went along there. So I would put him in number 3. Honorable mention, the other Bob, the other consultant in there, for no other reason than at first glance, I thought he was Vern Lundquist. I was like, wow, my God, they got Vern Lundquist in the movie. It's not. But if you go back and look at it, it's pretty close. Like the other consultant in the movie looks like a younger Vern Lundquist. So he's the honorable mention there. Joe, my official rating here on a scale of 10, Forrest Gump, I consider to be the perfect movie. Okay. It's a 10. I would give Office Space a 7.1. It's very, very good.
Ooh.
7.1, Joe.
Yeah. Thank you. First of all, yeah, I mean it's good, right? Like it's not a perfect movie, but like it's pretty consistent laughs, man. It's like, aren't you glad you've watched it now?
I am.
Like there's a lot of
Yes.
references that are like available to those who have watched that movie. And I like the ranking. That's good. I'm excited. See, I now I need Michelle Knezovic to hear this, and maybe she'll be influenced to watch it. I'm not great. Like I didn't know that Bob Slidell was his name. By the way, I love Michael Bolton. I celebrate his entire collection.
Yes.
Another great line from him. But and I don't remember this kid's name, but Lundberg farted her, like that guy, is still, a scene stealer too. Let's not leave him out.
Yeah, a
face.
lot of really good stuff in the movie. So I appreciate it. I mean, Lawrence just kind of spoke directly to me. So he's coming at number one. It was just hilarious. So when he walked,
Peter, man.
Yeah, when he walked in from the other side, I was like, yeah, I got a feeling I might like this guy. So ended up working out that way. So good stuff on that front. Office Space. I would encourage people to watch it. It took me almost 33 years, but I would encourage people to watch it. I guess it didn't take that long. When that movie come out, 97, something like that?
99, I think.
There you go.
If you're listening and haven't seen Office Space,
99.
Yeah, you definitely see Office Space. I think it's one of the best comedies of the last, I mean, I guess 20. I mean, yeah, I'd say it's one of the best comedies of the last 25 years. I guess most of my favorite ones were in the 80s, but yeah, watch that. And now we have to come up with the next one, which I would argue would be This Is Spinal Tap. The entire world should see the movie This Is Spinal Tap. But we can talk about it.
We'll see if sometime over the next year and a half that I get to This Is Spinal Tap. We'll see what happens on that front. I want to thank our listeners. I tweeted out last night that I was watching Office Space, and a lot of response to that. So I appreciate the listeners for checking in and seeing how things were going last night. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Joe, I was telling Ian before the show, if you gave me before the Stanley Cup final and the NBA finals like 100 chips, and you said you could lay these chips down, and we are telling you beforehand, before you make your bet, that one of these two series is going to a game 7. I would probably have laid 95 chips down on Edmonton and Florida. That's probably what I would have done. And instead, Joe, here we are. Edmonton and Florida already done. Florida's won the championship, and they're parading around South Florida doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And we were having a game 7 between Oklahoma City and Indiana. Frankly, I'm stunned by it. I'm stunned it's played out this way. And again, at this point, like, far be it from me to doubt the Indiana Pacers. What a performance by them last night. I mean, the final score ends up being 108-91. It was more of a blowout than that if you watched it last night. They just blew the doors off of Oklahoma City. And here we are. And look, Oklahoma City is going to be a big favorite. They were talking about it on Sportsmanlike, Joe. I think Oklahoma City is an 8.5-point favorite in Game 7. I still probably like them at home to eventually end up winning this thing. But, I was telling my brother yesterday, who was a big Thunder fan before the game, like, you don't really want to mess around with a Game 7. Anything can happen in a Game 7, and I am very, very intrigued to see how this goes coming up on Sunday.
Yeah. No, listen, I'll go back 9 years. I mean, the Golden State Warriors were, they were a much better team than the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were up 3-1. The stuff happened with Draymond, the suspension, and still when it was so then you lose without Draymond, and then you go lose on the road, and it's like, okay, but obviously they're gonna take care of business in Game 7 at home. I mean, it's just like they're just way better. They had set the record, I believe, for regular season wins that year, all that stuff. But Game 7's Game 7, and Steph Curry couldn't buy a bucket in Game 7, and we know what happened. LeBron with the block and all that stuff. That was a pretty stunning result. I would compare this to that if Indiana were to pull this off. And I know Indiana doesn't have LeBron James, but like there was a pretty big disparity between those two teams. And I would think that if you went back and look at the betting lines on those games, it'd be kind of similar, And so I'm with you. If I had to bet, I'd probably still go with OKC, but this is the first time Indiana has really run them out of a building too.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for the next game? I mean, ultimately, the slate is cleared, and you're way happier to be at home if you're Oklahoma City. But tip of the cap to Indiana, because I'm with you. I never would have guessed this would have been the better series.
No, not at all. And, Halliburton went from not looking like he was really able to move in game 5 to, I mean, look, he didn't set the world on fire last night, but he had 14 points. He was 5 of 12 from the field, made some big passes in the game. It's still pretty clear that he's not, 100% out there, but he looked way better in game 6 than he did in game 5. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, and now you get you get 2 days here,
right,
to rest that thing and be ready for Sunday. So yeah, I mean, it was good to see that he was able to do what he did. You would think he'd be pretty, maybe not 100%, but close to high level of effectiveness, which of course Indiana is going to need. And again, another game where obviously Siakam is just he's such a good player, but again, TJ McConnell just going out and just doing just doing everything for them off the bench. And just look, I mean, Miles Turner did nothing last night, and it didn't matter because they had everything going and they got in transition. And Oklahoma City for the first time, just looked, they just got run, they got overwhelmed. It's so surprising to see that from that team.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on Game 6 of the NBA Finals last night and a Game 7 coming up this weekend, your reaction to that, plus some NHL news and notes to get through that could affect the Nashville Predators. We'll get into all that coming up next as well. We've got an interesting discussion that Rexrode is going to throw out there later this hour as well, related to the sports fan. And as I said, Stilly coming up at 7 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
18-point deficit, OKC. 45 seconds to go. Pass stolen by Halliburton. How about Tyrese Halliburton? No look, and Siakam with the jam. Halliburton delivering in Game 6. 20-point lead, Indiana.
Another turnover, 2 more points off the turnovers.
Indiana gets it done last night and will force a Game 7 coming up on Sunday in the NBA Finals. And, Joe, you mentioned the Cleveland Golden State series in Game 7 from 2016. This is the first Game 7 in the NBA Finals since then, which is, I guess, kind of hard to believe.
What?
Yeah. That's what they were talking about on ESPN this morning.
That's wild. I did not know that. That is really wild. Wow. That's not a very good fixed league. Boy, if you're going to be a league that fixes everything like some people think, man, you'd think you'd be able to come up with a Game 7 every once in a while. Speaking of that, I got a back and forth on the text line. Texter saying, calm down, Joe. Pacers don't have LeBron and Kyrie putting up 40 each. Not a good comparison. But my point is they were significant underdogs, even with those two. Again, Golden State was clearly the favorite to win all that year. They were the best team in regular season history, et cetera, et cetera. The comparison is that going into Game 7, it was, certainly there were people saying what we're saying now. Well, you don't want to get to Game 7, but the conventional wisdom was that the Warriors would handle that Game 7. I'm not saying they were 8.5-point favorites. I don't know what it was. I'm sure we could figure it out. But, the conventional wisdom was, okay, now they'll right the ship. They do what they did in building a 3-1 series lead, and they'll win Game 7 at home. Steph and Clay were tight in that game. Draymond had like 33. Okay, so there you go. So Warriors are minus 4.5. So, yeah, it's not the same point spread difference between the perceived team quality. Like, again, that's true. The Pacers don't have, LeBron and Kyrie, but the Warriors were the clear favorite to win it. And the Warriors at home, you thought they'd figure it out. They didn't. It ended up being an amazing game. I hope we get a similar level of game.
Yeah, I hope we do too. Look, that game was unbelievable. So that's a high bar to live up to. But I am hoping that Game 7 on Sunday is a classic. Look, regardless of how you feel about the matchup of Oklahoma City and Indiana, a Game 7, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball, regardless of the opponents for a championship, I'll be there. Like you can find me there. I don't care if it's the Colorado Rockies taking on whoever in the World Series, which what an example that is. That's the first team that just came to my mind given how bad the Colorado Rockies are right now. But I don't care who it is in baseball, basketball, hockey. Give me a Game 7 for a championship and I'll be watching. So I am looking forward to Sunday night. And I think Oklahoma City's going to win, but I'm looking forward to what I think is going to be a good game coming up on Sunday night. Joe, some news to get to in the NHL. So Mason Marchment was traded yesterday from the Dallas Stars to the Seattle Kraken for a 2025 4th-round pick and a 3rd-rounder in 2026. Now, Mason Marchment has been a good player for the Stars. Now, the Stars made another move yesterday. They re-signed Matt Duchene to a 4-year contract. So they got Duchene in on a 4-year contract. I believe the number's at $4.5 million. I
believe that's correct.
Per year. So Duchene is back in Dallas. Dallas is right up against it with the cap, and they've got to figure out, are they going to try to bring back Mikhail Granlund? Are they going to end up trading Jason Robertson, which has been one of their best players, which there's a lot of discussion about that right now. So there's a lot going on in Dallas that they've had to try to kind of figure out there. Marchment is 30 years old. He scored 22 goals last season, had 25 assists in 62 games. So he's been a good player that's been in there, anywhere, basically, let's just call it their top 9. And he's kind of fluctuated around there, but he's been a really good player for the Stars. And I had some Predators buddies that really love the Predators kind of texting me yesterday in the immediate aftermath of the Marchment trade. It was like, so you're telling me the Kraken just got Mason Marchment from the Stars for a 4th-round pick this year and a 3rd-rounder next year, and the Predators got Eric Halla yesterday, was basically what they were talking to me about. I understand the sentiment. I would also remind people of a couple things. I do think it's a little bit harder to make trades in the division. I think the Stars are probably more willing to make a trade with the Seattle Kraken than they would be the Predators, unless the Predators just offer a crazy price for something, and then you just got to do it at that point. I have no idea if Barry Trotz and the Predators checked in on Mason Marchment, but I do understand some of the immediate reaction from my friends yesterday who are big Predators fans that were like, wait a minute, we just got Eric Halla yesterday, and 24 hours later, Mason Marchment goes to the Kraken? Miss me with that.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you can't really have worse timing than that in terms of, let's compare this deal now to this deal you just made. What? I think it's a very good point you make about in division, although, the Preds have made some, they've made some deals with Chicago, with Colorado, but yeah, it's a tough comparison. You'd much rather they give a similar price and a much better outcome, to get Marchment than to get Hall of Famer, which apparently, by the way, I heard this yesterday. Apparently, this is it's like a nickname that makes fun of him. Did you know this?
No, I swear I've heard people calling that.
No, I yes, but I think it was like it was teammates who came. This is what I was told. Teammates who came up with it because like they were sort of like making fun of him.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know if he wants that nickname.
Take it for what it's worth. Maybe that's why he's got such sandpaper when he's coming at people.
Maybe so.
But anyway, yeah, it's a tough comparison. It's just like, even if that's maybe like a few days later, you don't immediately think of him. I mean, you would have still, but it's like, wow, the very next day, then this happens for that.
Right.
And Eric Halla looks even worse by comparison.
Right. And again, Mason Marchment is not, some NHL all-star or anything like that, but he's a good player and he's 30 years old and, he goes a day later. And I saw a point, I think it may have been Frank Saravalli who made this point. I have to go back and look, but, another thing to keep in mind there is Seattle ends up acquiring Marchment, and they are also a team that does not have the state income tax to deal with. So kind of a solid done there by the Stars, where Marchment probably took a team-friendly deal to stay in Dallas, and they didn't send him somewhere where that team-friendly deal just kind of royally screws him the other way. So, I mean, if that was their approach, there's really only a limited number of spots he could have gone to, Nashville being one of them. So keep that in mind on that front. Joe, a couple other news and notes to get to. Connor McDavid addressed the media yesterday and was asked, I don't know, probably in every way possible about his contract and contract extension. And, as you would expect, and as is basically his response to everything, he didn't say a whole lot. He did talk about how if he feels like that's a place where, I think the phrase he used was win over and over again, that he would have no problem signing there. But he did throw in, like in the middle of this answer, having said that, and started talking about doing what's best for his family and all this stuff. And boy, does that have people going up in Canada. I mean, the Leafs fans are now 100% convinced that he's joining Toronto after next year. So I say all that to say my stance on McDavid still stands. If I were him, there's no way in the world I would sign an extension this offseason. I would wait and see how things play out next year and then have every possible option on the table for you. I have no idea if he's going to do that or not. But I do think yesterday, Joe, we got a glimpse of kind of the circus of what it's going to be like the longer he goes unsigned.
Like, there's no question he left the door open. So
yes.
So it's going to be the dominant story. And I will say, if you're an Oilers fan and when you're like, you hear, like, again, the priority is winning. It's like, listen, like, you just got to the Stanley Cup final the last 2 years.
Right.
Like, is that obviously he didn't win it, which is heartbreaking, but like, is that not enough for you to see that, like, there's a commitment and that actually there's competence to get you close? Like, what more do you want, right?
Right. I think you would make that argument.
I'm an Oilers fan. That's what I like. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think it's easy if you're an Oilers fan to make that argument.
You get upset.
Joe's just there. We go. I think we lost Joe. I think it's easy to make that argument, but I would also say,
I was just waiting for you.
if you're an Oilers fan, you have to look at it and say they're the oldest team in the league by the numbers this year. What's going to happen with the goalie? They've got the Evan Bouchard contract to figure out, which is going to be an astronomical number. And he talked about that yesterday, about how that's a deal that needs to get done. But that also makes it more difficult when you do that deal. And I know the cap's going up, but it makes it more difficult when you do that deal. And you've already got Draisaitl that you're paying a ton of money to, and you've got Darnell Nurse that's making $9 million a year and is not worth that contract. There's a whole lot that kind of goes into it. I think the way he phrased it was interesting in terms of, if I feel like this is a place where I can win over and over again. So I think it's just something to really keep an eye on here as the offseason goes. And he also said, everybody's going to be paying attention to that July 1st date and wanting some news to happen then, and basically said like 5 times that he's in no rush to do anything. So I got a feeling this could be a saga that plays out for a while, and it's going to be a heavy, heavy talking point in the NHL. Joe, one more thing to get to on the NHL front before we move on. The Florida Panthers, I don't know that I would say it rivals like the 2018 Washington Capitals, because I don't know that a Stanley Cup celebration ever will, but they're kind of making their way around South Florida, and somehow they ended up in the nightclubs in Miami last night. And, the beer's flowing, the drinks are flowing, all those things. And somehow Sam Bennett ends up on the microphone, and he goes like full Leonardo DiCaprio last night and says that he, quote, ain't effing leaving South Florida. So not that that's a huge surprise anyway, but I think that kind of tells you that there's probably a contract that's pretty close to being done. And if you're a Predators fan wanting Sam Bennett to come in and help rescue the day in free agency, I would not anticipate that this offseason.
Yeah, there's a lot of fan bases. I've seen a lot of Leafs fans who are like, Sam, come on. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen, guys. I'm sorry. But that's great. I have not seen the video. That's cool that he did a DiCaprio.
He did.
Also with McDavid, real quick. Hey man, you know what? You know how this gets solved by you taking a team friendly deal. Just saying.
That is the one thing with his negotiation, because I saw some Oilers fans yesterday being like, well, he doesn't want to say too much because it's a negotiating tactic. Like, he's trying to get all the money he can. I'm like, guys, I don't think in this case that the money is going to be an issue. I think Connor McDavid could walk in the door on July 1st to the Oilers front office and say, hey, this is what I want. And they would say, okay, here you go. I don't think the negotiating part of this is what he's doing.
He wants the team that which I get. But again, I guess then the question gets to, can they make it all work?
Right.
And do everything he wants them to do?
It's a very good question. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. A very fascinating discussion regarding you, the sports fan, that Joe Rexrode wants to get into coming up next. We'll do that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We'll have Jared Stillman with us at 7 o'clock. Get his thoughts on a variety of different topics. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Joe, we have heard from several fans over the years about the rising, in some cases, exorbitant cost of being a fan, whether it's here in Nashville, whether it's in general, whether it's the streaming services. We've talked about kind of different varieties of this, but there's a piece at The Athletic that has come out this week that June Lee has put together, kind of going into detail and describing the cost to be a sports fan now. And that is something you wanted to drill down on today. So set up for our listeners kind of the idea of what June Lee was going for here at The Athletic, and the genesis behind this article, and what has been uncovered here about how expensive it is to be a sports fan in 2025.
Yeah, actually, it's a guest essay at the New York Times. So this was, but it's close enough. It's but it's a really interesting piece, and it's actually kind of infuriating to read when he breaks down just the costs. And kind of, again, when you look at everything all together, I think that I think the key line here is from June Lee, quote, "Fandom isn't being nurtured anymore, it's being mined," end quote. And again, it's like the point he makes, he's a Boston guy, he's a big Red Sox fan. And so he goes back to 2013, and actually it's it's funny because I read the lead to this, and he's talking about David Ortiz in a game-tying grand slam in the 2013 ALCS, and how it was right after the Boston Marathon bombing, and this is our city and all this stuff. And so the team on the other side of that, by the way, was the Detroit Tigers. It was the weekend after my dad had suddenly passed away, so it was like a completely different experience for me as a fan. But obviously you think about, the Boston fans and what that meant for the city. So now we're 12 years later. And again, it's not like there aren't still huge Red Sox fans, but even following the team has changed. So he tracked being a Boston fan and what it would take. He threw in, like tickets, but also, again, streaming. I think a lot of this for people is like, where do I even find this game or that game? So I guess he went back a little bit before 2013, but he came up with 1321 tickets, TV access, merchandise, 20 years ago. Today, $4,785, which is a 262% jump, while wages in the same stretch have risen 87%. Point being, I mean, just look around. I mean, the NFL, if they could, they'd have a national game on every day of the week, right, with a different streaming service. And it's just, at some point, are you nurturing fans? Are you creating more fans? Or are you simply succumbing to greed and trying to scrape every last dollar out of everybody to make it harder to be a fan, to at some point hurt your product and have less fans? And it kind of gets into the whole, goes beyond sports, of like, someone in a company to get that stock price up and get the hell out and get your money and leave the mess for other people to deal with, right? It's just like,
I watched a movie about that last night.
That's right, you did. A great movie. So here's another line, quote, "For decades, our national sports leagues, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, operated more like civic institutions. These organizations may have always chased the mighty dollar, but they also wanted their sports to last. And as such, they cared about strengthening such powerful intangibles as local pride, generational fandom, and public ritual. Tradition was good business. Community built loyalty. Loyalty built value. Then came the streaming wars," end quote. So, putting a lot of this on the 2010s and cutting the cord, and just all the different people vying for dollars. It really has created quite a mess of being a sports fan.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how different it is now than it used to be. And it's from a variety of fronts. Like, the streaming service is a big part of it. Like, I heard Jared talking about this yesterday, and the NFL has their TV deals coming up. I believe in 2029 is when it expires. So there's still some time there, but it's not that far away. And when 2029 and 2030, I believe is when Monday Night Football comes up, when that comes around, I mean, NFL is already on, let's see here, CBS, Fox, ESPN, Amazon Prime. They had Netflix games last year. Like, it's already all over the place in terms of where you can find NFL games. And you're going to continue to see these streaming services in the NFL, especially try to get in and get their fair share of kind of the slice of these NFL products. So if you're a fan out there, it's like, man, if I want to watch the NFL, well, I've got to find a platform that's got, all of ESPN, Fox, and CBS. So like for me, for instance, that's YouTube TV, or I got to go buy NFL Sunday Ticket. And then if I want to watch Thursday Night Football, I've got to have Amazon Prime. And then if I want to watch the game on Christmas, I've got to have Netflix. Like, there's all these things that go into it. And maybe some people have all those things anyway, so it's not a huge deal for them. But the ability to just go find the game now is a crazy thing. And I heard some people talking about this. Like, wouldn't it be nice to have like all these different channels in one location to just be able to go find them? And it's like, yeah, it's called cable. We used to have that like 20 years ago. It's where everybody had cable and we weren't all cord cutters. So you got that aspect of it. You've got, it's funny. I saw the random video that the Carolina Hurricanes put up yesterday, Joe. And I guess yesterday was the 19th anniversary of when they won the cup against Edmonton. So the video they put out there was just like Rod Brindamore lifting the Stanley Cup. And you looked around, and there was no smartphone at the time. So everybody was just like kind of in the moment, watching it happen. People were going crazy. There's that part of it that's changed. And then, we've heard from Predators fans. We've heard from a lot of Titans fans, just people in general, about like the average fan being priced out. And one of the things we've heard about Titans fans about this new stadium, right, is like how many average fans are going to be priced out? How corporate is this going to become? It's a really when you really dig down deep into it and you factor in the cost for all these different things, it is a really difficult time to be a sports fan if you want to be like a season ticket holder to all your teams and be able to watch all your teams and all your leagues play games. It's a really difficult thing to do right now with how just exorbitantly expensive everything has gotten.
Right. And so, like Ethan from Lawrenceburg says, I've lost interest in going to games because of the cost and traffic. Also, the game's better on TV. That's that's part of this, and that's been something that obviously we've talked about that a lot, like over as the viewing experience has gotten better with HD and all this stuff, and the cost has gone up. A lot of people are making that choice. But again, now you also have the difficulty of, okay, what service do I need? How much is that? I got to have this one now. I got to have this one now, and things like that. And of course, you can look at something we talk about a lot, which is just college sports alone, right? What they've done in the name of greed, with the ridiculous realignment and some of the, again, to take common sense out of sports, to make it so that the team that you grew up hating, your team doesn't even play them anymore because of some cockamamie, league realignment. That's another thing that it's kind of adjacent to this in terms of just making it harder to be a fan.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on this. What do you make of how expensive it is in today's world to be a sports fan? And how has that affected the way that you either view or go to some of these sporting events? We'll get into all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We'll be joined by Jared Stillman coming up at 7 o'clock. Take your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. So what do you make of the high cost of being a sports fan in today's world? And what could be done about that moving forward? So, Joe, I guess as we see this, we see, franchise valuations continue to go up. We talked about Charles Robinson, or talked with Charles Robinson about that yesterday, the Lakers sale of approximately $10 billion and what that could mean for NFL teams as we move forward here. The leagues are continuing to make more and more money. The NFL making an unbelievable amount of money. NBA is making a lot of money. We've talked about the salary cap in the NHL. It's going way up over the next few years, which means they're making money. So there's a lot that goes into this here. Is this ever going to, I guess, level off in terms of how this is affecting the sports fan? Or are we just going to see, Joe, the price and the commitment and everything involved, the effort level, continue to go up and up and up and up, as it seems like it has over especially the last 5-10 years when it comes to the sports fan and the viewing experience?
Yeah, great question. And I appreciate that June Lee here in this piece does offer solutions. There's been so much talk around college athletics from the leaders of college athletics about congressional involvement, right? They've desperately wanted, some form of antitrust exemption to essentially stop the bleeding in the courtroom. And again, we just saw last week, it's like there's some bipartisan agreement on college sports, restricting earnings. But when it comes down to it, the two parties are not at all aligned on some of these ideas. So I just don't see anything happening. But congressional courtroom influence can matter a lot in stuff like this. Look, in 1984, a Supreme Court case is why television rights exploded for college football, because previously that had been limited. So one thing that he brings up is, one, he says the state and federal legislatures have bestowed these leagues with an extraordinary array of legal privileges, from a 1961 antitrust exemption, allowing them to bundle the television rights of all their teams, to the taxpayer subsidies, to limited oversights for financial transparency. So, if they want to keep these privileges, they need to act more like institutions that serve the public. So, you can amend that. You can ban blackouts. You can cap what streaming services can charge fans, and a requirement that media companies offer affordable bundles. Local games, you can force, this is a quote, can force teams buying for taxpayer dollars to help pay for their gleaming new stadiums to offer affordable local streams, guaranteed public simulcasts, and similarly, no blackouts. He cites the Dallas Stars of the NHL. They stream their games, regional games, for free. There's ads, but there you go. There's an example of a team that does it, that kind of sees the big picture, and has done it. So this is probably something that you're going to have to have some political influence to make some of this, to slow some of this down. He points out that Ted Cruz last week led a hearing, and he asked the question, why does it seem to be getting harder and more expensive just to watch a game? But then no legislation was introduced, but and the NFL people didn't even show up to this thing. So again, if public money is supporting these institutions, and we know there's a lot of public money, we certainly look at the stadium that's being built in Nashville, then there should be some conditions on access for fans to keep this from going in that direction.
Let's head to our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Ben from Cumberland City says, I'm a Colts fan, 16 years in Nashville. First 10 went to Nissan for Titans Colts, never a problem, great experience. In the last 6, it's a hassle. Multiple events, more traffic, parking. It's been a lot worse. Used to be easy, and now it's dreadful. Skyler, talking about YouTube TV, says, is YouTube TV the best way to watch all NFL and college football? I can't afford having what it seems like 6 streaming services to watch football. Also, I have not been able to watch Preds games in a long time. unless it's been on TNT. A couple different things there. Number one, I think from Ben's point, Joe, the traffic part of it, and we've talked about that and how much more difficult it is now with everything going on in Nashville to get down to a game than probably it used to be. There's one part of it, and that's kind of a separate part. The YouTube TV for me is basically how I consume football. I think it's great for college football, especially because college football it's got basically everything you need for the college football part of it. And it's good for NFL. Like you get your regional game. Like I watch the Titans on YouTube TV, and then whatever they've got on kind of the afternoon slate there, you can watch. And obviously ESPN you watch as well. But then you still you're looking around Thursday night football, and it's like, okay, so do I really want to get Prime Video just so I can watch Thursday night football? And then this past year you had the Netflix games, and it's like, all right, do I really want to get Netflix so I can go watch, the Chiefs play on Christmas Day? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it from the NFL part of it. And the NFL part of it specifically, Joe, is what I'm not sure is going away anytime soon. I think you're probably going to add to the streaming part of this as it goes forward here. Skylar's point on the Preds part of it is interesting. You bring up the Stars, and they're not the only team that does kind of their own thing. I'm interested in the NHL specifically, if that's more the way that things are kind of headed here.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, that's the thing. Look, the NFL is, when it comes down to it yeah, because as someone pointed out, it's up to the consumers to tell them this is too much. And that's not happening in the NFL, right? So I think you do already, and you will more see differences in how leagues handle it. Joey from Bellevue tells us about Nashville SC, the low cost of tickets, the great deal. You get free MLS package on Apple TV if you're a season ticket holder, stuff like that's great. That's also, MLS needs to do things like that.
Right. Yeah, and the NFL doesn't, right? I mean, the NFL knows that. And that's part of why you're in the predicament that you're in is, the NFL knows the demand for its product. And if you're Roger Goodell, it is interesting. If you're Roger Goodell and you're these owners in the NFL, Joe, it's like, well, we know how much our product is worth. We know how much all these TV companies and streaming companies are willing to pay for it. So how do you balance the amount of money that you're going to make? And it is like Roger Goodell's job basically to make this league as much money as he possibly can, while also considering, all right, how much harm are we doing to the casual fan? And how much does that part of it ever actually come up in the discussion is something I would love to know. Probably not much.
Yeah. It needs to be more, Texter points out no blackouts. You're that's a big thing here to me, that's the no blackouts thing, I think is a big deal. Baseball has really screwed it up. I got a texter who says, I haven't watched the Preds or the Braves in forever, and you hear that so often. Well, I guess it's just the way it works out. I just basically don't watch this team anymore. That happens a lot in baseball.
Yep.
And it's just really a problem.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Jared Stillman will join us coming up next. We got a lot of things to get into with Jared. We will do that. Jeff Fisher coming up at 7:30, TD at 8, all that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/getitall. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We welcome in our friend Jared Stillman to the program, as we do every Friday morning at 7 o'clock. Stilly, good morning. How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you guys?
Fabulous as well. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Stilly, we were just having a conversation about how tough things are for the sports fan right now in terms of the cost of everything. And I want to drill down on that with you, with the NFL part of this, as somebody who really pays attention to this and where things are headed here. I heard you talking yesterday about the TV deals that are coming up in 2029, and I think Monday Night Football, you said, is 2030. So where do you think all this is headed with the future of the TV deals in the NFL, where fans are going to be able to find games, and how much more involved all the streaming services are going to be?
First of all, I just want to point out the irony that there was an article in The Athletic about how you have to pay to be a sports fan when you have to pay in order to read The Athletic, which I thought when
that is funny. No, that is funny. It wasn't The Athletic, but yes.
Oh, I thought I thought it was a June Lee story in The Athletic.
It's New York Times.
It was a New York Times guest essay. But still,
a New York Times.
that is a correct use of irony. So I give you credit for that.
Good job. I thought that was funny because I read the same article. I look, the fact is, like, Major League Baseball, and I've just realized this. Major League Baseball is the poster child for not really caring about the fans, and the idea that they can put games on Apple TV and Roku and, you know, the different streaming services. I think, like, in order to be a Yankee fan, you have to have the YES Network, which, like all the other regional sports networks, is becoming increasingly harder to get. You have to have Amazon Prime because Prime has a handful of Yankee games for some reason. You have to have cable that has all the cable networks, you know, ESPN for Sunday Night Baseball, FS1, etc. You have to have Apple TV because every Friday night the Yankees are apparently on Apple TV. And I think there's like 2 other streaming services you have to have in order to watch the Yankees inside of New York. And the truth is they don't care. Like, as bad as it sounds, like, hey, these games aren't very accessible to the fans. They really don't care. What Major League Baseball does want is they want for the ability to end the local blackouts that have just crushed their sport, you know, for years with fan support for probably the last decade or so. They're trying to get rid of that, and they have to do it one TV contract at a time. But outside of that, and the only reason they care about that is because they want people to buy their own streaming product, MLB TV. They don't care. Like, baseball does not care that on a Friday night, it may be hard for you to watch your team if you don't have Apple TV and your team is on the Apple game. They don't care. And I think that it's increasingly obvious that even the NFL, who used to prioritize, the NFL almost turned down $400 million from Fox 25 years ago, or really 30 years ago. They almost turned down $400 million a year from Fox for $250 million a year from CBS, just because they thought CBS was more important with its distribution. When the SEC signed their TV contract with CBS, Mike Slive, the commissioner at the time, said, well, the most important thing was to be on CBS because that was such a premier network. They don't care about that anymore. So instead of sitting there and trying to analyze this idea of where this is all headed, I mean, the reality is sports, live sports is the one thing that it just seems like people will not watch on their own time. Anything else they can DVR. And so because of that, it allows these streamers to get involved, and streamers cost money, and the leagues do not care. They do not care that they're going to put their Stanley Cup final games on cable. They don't care. And I've just realized that. Again, you're going to have the Western Conference, Eastern Conference final every other year in basketball on Amazon. They don't care. They had a playoff game on Peacock. They don't care.
Will you be live watching, or will you just record and watch later the Cam Ward documentary that's sure to signal the end of his career?
Well, so I think
have you already
Tubi,
abandoned him? Is he toast? Is he toast because of this, Jim?
I think Tubi is free, but I still don't have it. I don't know how to get it. And in September, I'll probably be worried about the 17-week Cam Ward docuseries that I probably won't be paying attention to the 6-week Cam Ward docuseries. Let me just say this. First of all, it's nice for once not to be the guy who's the most negative about somebody's bull crap. I would believe that would belong to Buck, who I think was the most. I mean, he just went scorched earth about the Cam Ward docuseries. I didn't go that crazy about it. I will say this. I'm not going to watch. I'm also tired of this idea like, oh, wow, Cam Ward, he was a 0-star recruit. Did you know that? I mean, there's always stories about Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school team. But the reason that that's such a great story is because Michael Jordan became the greatest basketball player who ever lived. Let's let Cam become the greatest football player who ever lives. And then we can talk about being a 0-star recruit. This idea that like, oh man, wow, let's celebrate the accomplishment of being the number 1 overall draft pick. That doesn't do it for me. So again, look, Tubi, I'm sure is very happy with their purchase of the Cam Ward docuseries. I think it's a reflection of the Titans as much as anything that Cam Ward's management team shopped this docuseries and only Tubi wanted it. But I do feel like there are some parallels to the Summer of Mayonnaise, and I don't necessarily love it.
Jared, we've talked a lot this week about the situation the Predators find themselves in heading into the offseason. They make the Eric Halla trade the other day, which I'm not sure does a whole lot for me. But how do you view the job for Barry Trotz this summer in terms of if they are looking to be a team that gets back in the playoffs next year and is competitive, which I think is what they're trying to do. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Is there a realistic path to doing that this offseason in your mind?
I don't think the path is Eric Halla, but I mean, I do think that there is some possibility. Like, I wouldn't bank my career on it, but I do think there is some possibility that, and this is why I think I would have changed the coach, that all these guys playing together, second year, they know how important the start of the season will be after they started off 0-5, that last year was a one-off and they'll be better this upcoming season. I guess there's a chance that's the case. I mean, the Yossi diagnosis certainly doesn't make me feel any better about that, but I think that's the possibility. I don't think there's any real player they can add or any real player they should add that would make them a competitor if these old pawpaws aren't any good anymore. Like if the reality is, and I don't know this to be true or not, if the reality is that Stamkos, Marchessault, and Brady Shea just stink, and Yossi is for the rest of his career an injury liability, and Saros is what I think he is, I don't really think that there's any player that they could go out there and add. I saw Predators fans complaining about Eric Halla and not going after Mason Marchment, and I understand that, but I don't think the difference between Eric Halla and Mason Marchment is going to make you a 98-point team as opposed to, I don't even know how many points they had last year. It was like 60. I don't think that that's going to swing the needle that far. I think the explanation on why they signed Halla is because I think they view him as somebody that can allow Fedor Svechkov to probably play a little bit more with defensive zone situations and that kind of thing. I think they plan to play Halla next to Svechkov, and then that way they think that they can put them on the ice for a defensive zone draw because they can put Halla in the dot. Again, I just don't think that you're an Eric Halla away one way. The players that they're paying need to play better away from them being a playoff team.
I don't know why it matters. We're not judging Barry Trotz till 2028, right?
Well, I mean, if the average for a general manager, and that's average, if the average is 4.79 years and he took over in 2023, then we would be looking at the average being till 2028, right?
Roughly.
Sure, exactly. So, I mean, this next season is meaningless. I just care if Edstrom's developing. I mean, that's really what matters.
Well, here's the thing. If my choice is what matters more to the Predators, that the Predators make it to the first round of the playoffs and get beaten 6 games, or they make it to the second round of the playoffs with these old pawpaws and they get gentlemen swept in 5 games, or these guys, whether it's Edstrom or Kimmel or Wood or Mullendijk or Stiga or Surin or the guy that they're going to pick 5th overall or the other 2 first-round picks become stars, I'll say, let's see if those guys can become stars on the other end. if I had to pick between which mattered to me more. It sounds, Joe, like to you, it matters more that they make the first round of the playoffs.
What matters to me is that a choice was made, which is to go for it, which you don't seem to be able to process. I mean, this entire
to me,
argument, Jared,
that's not
started
going
around
for it. Signing old folks and putting them out there. I mean, there is a certain, like when Trot says,
while
trying to have a
signing your
team.
goal, while signing your goalie to an 8-year deal, because you are right now. Well, how do you separate that? You can't compartmentalize that.
Going
this
for
entire
it,
argument,
going for it is when you
no.
mortgage your future, and just you saying no doesn't mean that that's not true. Going for it is the moment. I remember we used to run a promo talking about they're going for it when they traded for Kyle Turris. When you start to mortgage your future, and look, the 8-year deals I think are a future type move, and the Saros deal and the Shea deal.
When you make that goalie
good.
choice, Jared, when you make that goalie choice, you're saying this is it right now because we have Yossi in his window, because we have Forsberg in his window. Why? Because you had a young goalie.
Why is the goalie choice the defining moment of whether or not you should be winning today versus tomorrow?
Because you had a goalie that you chose in the first round, and we'll see. You know, he may not end up being that good anyway, but with the information available at the time. Huh?
I
understand that, but what does that matter? You had him in the system.
If
you had a
judging
choice to make.
Barry Trotz, I'm judging Barry Trotz on the things that Barry Trotz does.
Okay, so
and the players that Barry Trotz picks.
So now this is so classic you. So again, I'm not saying he made the choice that he picked Ascara, but he had the choice of the two goalies, did he not? That's what I'm talking about. So now you want to
made the wrong choice,
but he didn't pick Ascara.
I
think when you make that choice, Jared, you can't argue that this doesn't count. He didn't mortgage picks for it, so it doesn't count.
I think he made the wrong choice. I think he made the wrong choice on Saros. I've told him that he made the wrong choice on Saros. I believe big picture.
That's heartwarming.
In 2028, he'll get fired because of the choice on Saros, even though you think that I'm some bobo who just acquiesces to Trotz when he comes on the show and I hold his ass to the fire. You know, this isn't like other people when they interview Rand Carthon and ask him about Kendrick and Drake. You know, this is not friend zone here when it comes to the interviews. And I say this because I do think
put that spotlight in his face, and it's just like you're the
I do feel like
dirty hair.
I do feel like 6 years from now, 7 years from now, whenever it is, if this team's good and Saros is going to hold them back, because I think he's not a winner. I think he kind of sucks, and I think he's getting worse. And I think that may be the end-all be-all for Trotz if he's got some guys up in the NHL and they're kind of competitive, but they can't get over the hump because their goalie secretly sucks, and everybody over there has Sarosism where they think that he's freaking great. Willie thinks they would have won 3 cups in Edmonton with Saros as the goalie.
I heard that.
And I just, look, I think that it was a terrible move. I do. At the same time, when Barry Trotz got hired in 2023, I and many other Predator fans were waving the white flag saying, please give up on this core. Please tear this down. Please start a rebuild. And from that moment, they acquired all those draft choices for Tanner Jeannot, and they traded away Matthias Ekholm, and they traded away Mikhail Granlund, and they traded away Nino Niederreiter. And when that happened, you and I, if you're being intellectually honest, knew that this wasn't going to be a 2024, 2025 fix. So because Barry Trotz said to the fans when he got hired, fans, be patient. It's going to be a rough ride. They won more games than they thought they were going to win the first year. That doesn't change anything for me. Again, it's still about the young guys.
You don't think it changed things for him? You think when he signed these guys a year ago, Jared, he was saying, now listen, we're in a rebuild and we're not really trying to win now, but hey, come on to Nashville. No, that information.
He doesn't have to say, he's not saying that we're not trying to win. I think he told those guys, hey, with you and Yossi and Forsberg and Saros and the other two, we think we can win. And so let's go together.
So a year ago, we were talking about
I don't think that's what he was telling Bill Haslam.
Final.
I don't think that's what he was telling Bill Haslam. I think he was telling Bill Haslam. I think he was telling Bill Haslam, like, hey, the core of what we're trying to do is still 19 years old. And so let's spend some money on these guys and let's see where it goes. I think we'll be competitive. We're not going to win the cup with these guys, but we should be able to have a playoff team.
Then why did you sign Soros? Then why did you extend Soros? Again, everything you're saying does not add up with Soros.
Yes, it does, because all these guys, and just because what I'm about to say is what I think they think does not mean that it's what I think. But when they drafted all these guys, how long does it take before these guys are ready to play in the NHL? 4 or 5 years, right?
Typically.
And it takes about 6 or 7 before they enter their prime, right?
So when Saros is 37.
That's when they've signed him to. They think he's still going to be good then.
Oh, God. Okay.
I don't think that.
That deal was signed, Jarrett. Now, that's garbage. Everybody knows that the back end of these deals that's just the pain that you have to sign up for, Jarrett. See, now you're trying to make arguments that don't add up whatsoever. Everybody believes that. Robby, help me out here.
I mean, I don't think you sign UC Saros because you think he's still going to be an elite goaltender at age 37.
I think you guys don't know the Predators. Like, I wanted to get
I don't
rid of
know
Saros.
the Predators, the person who spent more time around than any non-employee.
I don't think you guys understand how much what the normal person thinks about UC Saros is not what they think. They have a disease over there. I don't understand it.
But they still understand
they have the same
now,
disease
so the prime
that
years
Tony
are the
Khan
years
has
going
with
for
Trevor Lawrence. He thinks Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville is Joe Burrow. He's not. They think Saros is like freaking the best goalie in the world. They think he's going to be good 8 years from now. I'm telling you.
Jared, we'll have to leave it there. We'll pick it up again next week. Thank you for being with us.
Hey, if they start off 0-5 again, fire Trotz, according to Joe.
It probably does not speak well for the
Never
coach
said that
It
at
would
all.
not be if they start 0-5.
It does not speak well. Thank you, Jared.
See you guys.
We'll react to what Jared had to say. We got Jeff Fisher coming up at 7:30. All that ahead, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. This week's Nashville's best deal is Body Rock. Plank, lunge, twist, and push your limits with Body Rock's dynamic muscle sculpting Pilates-inspired classes designed to rock your body to the core. Get half off a $50 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals to use at any of Body Rock's 4 Nashville locations while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We'll have Jeff Fisher coming up here in just a few minutes. Joe, your quick thoughts on Stilly's Sorrow steak. It's hard for me. Like, look, I understand that I don't think this is just a Predators thing. I think there are some organizations that absolutely just fall in love with their players sometimes and maybe don't have the same view on those players as other people around either their respective league or fans do. And I don't know how the Saros part of it factors in. I know that they believe in UC Saros. Do I believe that they signed UC Saros to a contract, Joe, because they thought by the time that Igor Surin is 27, that Saros is going to be like leading the charge to the Stanley Cup? It's hard for me to get there.
Yeah, it's somewhere in Jared's faulty argument, he had to come up with, you have to somehow support it with something that's just not plausible. And that's a good example. These NHL deals, and not just in the NHL. I mean, you see it in baseball too, right? In particular with the term of some of these deals where, and in NFL, I mean, in any pro league, there are deals sometimes that have such terms that, you're signing up for what you think are being incredibly rewarding early part of the contract. And you know that you're going to have pain at the end of it. And that's just the cost of doing business. And that's what this was. This whole argument with Jared and I on like Trotz and the Preds started with the Jared versus Joe, where the question David Reed asked was just what next year is a I think he said like a respectable or a suitable response from the Preds. Like what's an okay bounce back year for the Preds? It wasn't about Trotz being fired. And Jared said 85 points. And I was just like, so you're telling me that if they get 85 points next year and don't make the playoffs, oh, that's okay. Just because they lowered the bar so incredibly low this year. Now next year is like, well, just if you can just be okay with this roster, then great. No, that would be infuriating. And that would be worse than just being at the bottom again and maybe getting into the, and being able to get the kid whose name eludes me right now. So that's where it started. Thank you. That's where it started for me. It's like, how could you lower the standard like that? I mean, look, you can't. I understand the idea, Robby, about he hasn't mortgaged away like a ton of prospects and picks. He has that stuff, and that's good. But I also like Jared, and I think some fans also, but I don't think too many are like looking at this time period right now like it doesn't really count. Like it's like preseason football or something. I mean, they made choices that said, let's go. And a year ago, when we celebrated these signings, Robby, I know that I said, okay, we had segments. What's a good season? And I said getting to the conference final. It seems hilarious that I said that now, but that wasn't like an insane thing to say a year ago.
When people would have been pretty happy last year with 68 points and this next season with 85 points, had they gone completely young and you had Yaroslav Askarov in goal and he was building, probably would have been okay with 68 points and 85 points. UC Saros in goal, signing Stamkos, Marchessault, Brady Shea, and what you did last summer, it changes the math. I'm sorry. It just does.
I really don't think many people would disagree with that. I hope not, but we know one who does.
We do. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jeff Fisher will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and his thoughts on what's a big weekend for the Nashville Cats coming up in Clarksville. All that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Friday morning. We are taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rob rant coming up here in just a few minutes at 7:45. Big weekend coming up for the Nashville Cats out at F&M Bank Arena in Clarksville, which, by the way, is an incredible facility if you've not been out there and seen it. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com and welcome in the coach, Jeff Fisher, to the program. Jeff, good morning. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Good morning. Friday morning, man. Pretty cool. This week went fast, didn't it?
Sure went by really, really fast. We appreciate so much you taking time to be with us on the program. Jeff, I just want to kind of start there. You know, F&M Bank Arena in Clarksville, I've been out there a few times. It's a really awesome place. I know you guys are really looking forward to Sunday at 4:30 and seeing what that environment is going to look like.
Yeah, we are. I mean, last year, you know, as we brought the Cats back last year, pretty much under a different ownership, you know, kind of group and things, we wanted to reach out. We kind of explored, you know, and we got a game set up out there last year, and it was a great experience. You know, it was our first time, my first time. I really didn't have any idea that such a great facility was up there in Clarksville, and so we went up, and it was a huge success for us last year. And then we decided, let's see if we can get one, you know, this coming year. We did that last weekend, and you know, as things fate would have had it, we end up with another game up there, first playoff game here, and so, you know, stranger things have happened. There's an outside chance. I can't tell you what the percentages are, but there's an outside chance if we win and Salina goes into Albany and upsets Albany, we'll be playing up there again next week. So yeah, it's been a great experience for us. Great people up there, great fan base, you know, in conjunction with the base and, you know, just everybody. It was really, really happy and pleasing for the organization, the league, and even the fans that came. Just the event that we put on last week, we nearly sold it out. We're expecting to sell this one out here Sunday.
So I want to get more into that with you here in just a few minutes, because I know there's some tailgating going on this weekend, and we'll get kind of the rundown on that coming up here in just a few minutes. I do want to kind of start with you on this as well. As you evaluate and you're looking at Cam Ward with the Titans, and obviously with your extensive experience in the NFL as head coach, what is, for a rookie quarterback, what are maybe one or two of the most important things, in your opinion, that you want to see from a rookie quarterback that signals to you that they're headed in the right direction by the time year one is said and done?
Well, I mean, a lot of it's been discussed. It was discussed for weeks and weeks leading up to the draft, certainly because of where the Titans were picking and the evaluation period and process. But it's the poise and the composure and the personality that walks in the building on day one. And, you know, and I've said this numerous times, you know, the NIL, and you guys talk about it all the time, I'm sure, but golly, what it's doing to college football and this and that. Well, I'll tell you what it did to quarterbacks and the quarterback selection and the evaluation process. If there's a positive, and there are, but as it relates to that, the Titans had an opportunity to go out and talk to three different staffs, three different coaching staffs, trainers, people. They got more information about Cam. You know, it's not like in old days where, you know, you got one program, you're in there talking to the head coach, you're talking to the trainer, you may go back and do all your research and talk to, you know, a high school coach or things like that. They have more information there. So he went through, what I'm saying is he went through three different systems. He was a quarterback in three different systems. He was in three different locker rooms. He had to adjust. And the information out there was every time he stepped into a new environment, he thrived. And he's real. His leadership qualities there's nothing fake to him. He's legitimate. He's genuine. You saw this past week where a coach was talking about how he was calling plays, or whenever it was, a week or so ago, and Cam and Jeffrey Simmons are they're just jawing at each other. And coach is thinking, well, he's got to pay attention to this. I'm sending the play in. He got the play. He's talking crap to his defensive captain. At the same time, goes up, executes the play. So I think because of the information that we have on Cam up to this date, everything points to the fact that and I can't guarantee you that he's going to start day one. I would think he probably is. But if they decide to wait a week or 2 or 6 weeks or whatever it is, every situation is different with respect to the quarterbacks there. We drafted Jared Goff, in St. Louis or LA, when I was out there. Jared at Cal had never called a play in the huddle before. I mean, the play came in from the sideline on cards, which is great. But Jared needed to learn how to call a play in the huddle. It took him some time. We didn't start Jared till week 10 or whatever it was. But I mean, in this case, all indications are that Cam is ready to go. And then you got to get into the football and the X's and O's and make sure you got your offensive line is healthy. They're sound in protection, and we're going to run the ball a little bit, take the pressure off the quarterback. But I think the sky's the limit for this young man. Everything that I've heard, I've not met him, but everything that I've heard is that he is just he's rare in the locker room as a teammate, as a leader, natural ability. He's competitive. He understands. It's not easy. The game is fast. It's a different game that he's stepping into right now. With the and the obvious things, not stating the obvious, but the speed and everything. But he's gonna thrive. I mean, he has everything right now. There's no reason that he's not going to be successful and successful early on in his career. Now, how early that is, I can't tell you that. There's a lot of other factors involved.
Well, you touched on something, Jeff, that I wanted to ask you about, because it is different now. Like you said, there's so many things that have changed, NIL, and it's a great point about having more evaluations. But everything's accelerated now too, right? I mean, obviously it's a different time with McNair, but you guys took your time and it worked out beautifully. Like you said, Goff, it was several weeks. It seems like now it's just a built-in expectation that a guy like Cam Ward would start week one. It seems like more and more we see careers start right away and also maybe flame out, but then sometimes we see guys emerge somewhere else, and it's like, actually, maybe if you would have given them more time on the front end, maybe it would have worked out differently. Do you think that's a problem, and do you think there's a case to be made, to give him a little bit of time and not just automatically throw him into the starting spot?
I think what I'm saying is there are external factors that you can anticipate, you can control, and you have to be mindful of that. These are the decision makers, okay? This is the head coach, this is the offense coordinator, whoever. If you can do it too soon, and you want to make sure that they're prepared, and they know what they're doing. I mean, I followed Sam Darnold. I watched Sam coming out. I saw what happened to him at the Jets. I knew exactly why it happened. Why he had the difficulty, why he was seeing ghosts. It wasn't his fault. It was his surroundings. It was decisions that people were making in the building. The offensive staff wasn't in touch with the defensive staff. He's getting all kinds of unfair looks here early in his career that were presented by the defense, and he's just set back. And it took him a while to work his way out of that. So, what I'm saying is that I don't see this administration, the coaching staff, and or anybody in the organization making a mistake that's going to set him back. They're going to be real, and if they say, you know what, he's just not quite ready, we need another week. I mean, 3 preseason games, and he ain't going to take many shots there. I mean, he's not going to get a whole lot of reps in the preseason. I mean, we're going to see him. You're going to see him for a quarter here, maybe a half, and then his work's going to come, through joint practices or competing against the defense, and that's where he's going to get ready. Everything that he's going to do from this point on is to get ready for the opening. And so they're going to make a decision, as they move forward. One, is he ready? Two, how are we going to handle it? How are we going to game plan? And what are we going to do to provide a platform for him to where he can be successful early on? Now, I don't think, in what I know, I mean, I haven't met the young man, but everything I hear and I'm told and that you guys have heard is they're not external factors that are going to ruffle his feathers. This kid has that. He has those qualities right now to where I don't think, I mean, you can hit him with a bus and I mean, he's going to get right back up and throw a touchdown pass. I mean, this kid's different. And, I'm excited to watch it play itself out.
So, Jeff, obviously a huge weekend coming up for you guys, as we mentioned, out at F&M Bank Arena in Clarksville. If our listeners are looking for tickets, you can find those on NashvilleCats.com. But just what has this year, this experience been like for you? What do you make of the matchup against Southwest Kansas and the tailgating and everything that's going to be involved coming up this weekend?
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Cat fans, the second generation of Nashville Cat fans, and then just people that absolutely just love the 50-yard game, the indoor world. I knew nothing about it 2 years ago. I mean, granted, they were practicing our facility, and the Cats were rolling for years, way back when we were, making our deal happen. And 2 years ago, I got involved, and I'm in that world, coaching. You help people, and I got involved. I wanted to help, and said yes, and ended up getting into a little more than I anticipated last year. But I have no regrets. I'm really excited about where I am with respect to and where the league's going, and with respect to the Cats. And it wasn't an easy off season. We had some ownership issues, but we got things settled. I think we got one of the best. Well, it's going to be the all-time winningest coach in indoor football history, after a handful of wins. But Coach Arbett's got a team together. They've gotten better and better each week, and here we are, 4 teams now in the playoff scenario. So we're going to host, as you said, Southwest Kansas. They are a really, really good team. The 2 Kansas teams are in the playoffs, Salina and Southwest. Salina's going to Albany. And, the winner of these games are going to meet in the championship. And we're just hoping that, our club here, the Nashville Cats, have an opportunity to compete for that. So great stuff going on, Sunday, 4:30 kickoff, F&M Bank Arena, as you said. We're going to start up around 2 o'clock there, just really across the street from F&M Bank. There's a public park, if you will, and the city of Clarksville is going to put on a big festival, with food trucks and entertainment and all kinds of stuff, so people can come out, enjoy themselves, and then slide on into an beautiful air-conditioned venue and watch an indoor game, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to that coming up this weekend. Again, if you're out there looking for tickets, go to NashvilleCats.com. Chase and Big Joe will have the call coming up on 93.3 FM as well. And again, that's Sunday coming up at 4:30. Jeff, really appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us this morning. We will talk to you soon, and good luck this weekend.
I look forward to that, and we're all looking forward to the start of training camp as well. So we'll keep an eye on the quarterback, but in the meantime, he's on vacation, getting ready for training camp start. In the meantime, let's focus in on what the Cats are doing. How's that?
Absolutely. That sounds good to me. Jeff, have a great weekend, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You guys do the same. Thank you.
Absolutely. Jeff Fisher, our guest here on the program. Nashville Cats in action this weekend. Again, NashvilleCats.com, where you can find those tickets. And as you heard him lay out there, lots of stuff going on around the building at F&M Bank Arena on the tailgating front coming up on Sunday. So it should be a really fun weekend for the playoffs as the Cats take on Southwest Kansas. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up next. Teron Davenport will be with us at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Atlanta has selected Brett Favre, quarterback, Southern Mississippi.
I didn't receive my paycheck this week.
You're gonna have to talk to payroll about that.
I did. I believe you have my stapler.
Could not tell if there was a forearm or an elbow, but L is down and just finally getting back to his feet. Yes, a right elbow by Corey Perry.
Over the line!
That nobody knows about this but us, all right? No family members, no girlfriends, nobody.
Of course. Agreed.
Don't worry, man. I won't tell anyone either.
Corey Perry is gone.
Number 10, 5 in game for Albury.
He's a habitual line stepper.
We're vibing, Robby.
Hey, Robby. Still vibing, kid?
We're vibing, Robby. Vibing, 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 vibe, 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 vibe. We're vibing, Robby.
Oh, it is that time of the day. The Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode. Ian Safar continues to be an absolute legend with the mashups.
That was beautiful.
A lot of Office Space toss in there, Joe. And now I get it.
Hey, before you start, Robby. Well, I didn't know you farted Lundberg. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Good stuff. By the way, prior to yesterday, I mean, this is really my own fault. No idea Jennifer Aniston was in that movie. It was a welcome surprise.
Yeah. It's one of the in the list of pros and cons. It goes in the pro
it's
list.
In the pro category. No doubt about that. All right, so I want to
Flair, please.
Yeah. I want to talk today about Corey Perry. We've talked a lot about Corey Perry this week, and I know that Corey Perry, when you ask Nashville Predators fans, it does not take long to get down the list of like most hated players in franchise history. Corey Perry is either at the top or certainly within like the top 2 or 3 of most hated players. I mean, you could find different people on there, like Ryan Kessler's on there and Patrick Kane's on there, and back in the day, Chris Chelios probably
Burroughs.
on there. Burroughs is
Alexander
on there.
Burroughs.
There's a lot of different guys you could probably point to. Perry, I think, probably universally is no worse than second or third for most Predator fans. So I realize that the fact that he has now lost 5 Stanley Cup finals in a row and 5 in the last 6 years is objectively hilarious for most Predators fans around here. So that part of it, I'm not looking to change your mind because, frankly, I think it's kind of funny too. But he was asked a question yesterday at his end-of-season media availability about the Cup Finals that I could not really believe was asked. Here's what Corey Perry was asked yesterday in Edmonton.
Corey, going to that many Stanley Cup Finals and losing, when you look back at that, is that devastating, or are you glad for that experience? How does a player view that?
Yeah, it's devastating. I mean, 5 of the last 6, it doesn't get any easier. It just it doesn't feel real, but you get ready and you move on, and I mean, you get ready for next season. Hopefully you have that opportunity again.
You don't look back 10 years from now and say that was pretty cool to get there that many times and be a part of it.
Well, yeah, maybe in 10 years when I look back, whenever I'm done playing.
Hey, Corey, does losing 5 Stanley Cups in a row suck, or is that awesome? Like, what are we doing? Like, look, sometimes I think that athletes on occasion, Joe, and we've talked about this, there have been some famous examples, maybe get a little bit too sensitive up there when they're asked questions and they kind of fly off the handle sometimes. And then there are other times where you just ask stupid questions. And that was a stupid question yesterday. I have no idea who asked it. I mean, I'd have to go back. And one of the problems with playing in a Canadian market is there's like 75 people that cover all these teams. So I have no idea who asked that question yesterday, but I heard it and I was like, look, man, we all ask dumb questions from time to time. That one was a doozy. Hey, Corey, does losing 5 out of the last 6 Stanley Cup Finals, does that suck? Yeah, man, it does. I mean, the chuckle he gave, even I felt a little bit bad for Corey Perry in that question, Joe.
Yeah. Was that Joe Rule? Was that Joe Rule answering that question? Famous hockey writer, Joe Rule. First of all, I agree. Like, as much as I can't stand Corey Perry, I actually have to give him a tip of the cap for how he handled that. He laughed, but then he actually went through and answered. There are people who would have flown off the handle at that. And honestly, it would have been okay. The thing is, I understand the idea behind the question.
It was poorly phrased.
If you ask it correctly, which is like, I think it's sort of like, can you take any solace in getting there despite the obvious devastation? But when you're like, are you devastated or like kind of happy about it? It's like, no, this is not how you phrase a question.
Hey,
at least
man.
you didn't use talk about it, I guess. So we got that going for us.
Corey, do you like winning or do you like losing? Which one's better, winning or losing? I mean, I couldn't believe that question was asked yesterday.
Yeah, it's if someone stamps on your foot, does that hurt or do you just appreciate the foot?
Oh, man. Corey Perry, hey, look, interested if he gets back. Maybe he re-signs in Edmonton. Maybe there's a thought out there that he might explore free agency. So wherever he goes, I mean, you can pretty much count on him being in the Cup final next year and then being sent packing in the Cup final. So be interested.
So again, I mean, Preds, hey, man, I mean, you'll take another loss in the Cup final. It's the greatest moment in team history. Yeah, finally people can embrace Corey Perry. Texter says, fart that guy. He deserves all these losses. I'm glad he got asked such a dumb question.
Hey, I mean, it was definitely a dumb question. I'm glad that, I'm glad Predators fans can take solace in the pain of Corey Perry because there's been a whole lot of it over the last 6 years. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Teron Davenport will be with us coming up next. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week here on Robby and Rexrode. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Turon Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD to the program. TD, good morning, man. How are we doing?
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, TD, I heard you talking yesterday on the Power Hour, and Calvin Ridley came up, and you talked about kind of the difference that you're seeing in Calvin Ridley, obviously pointing out the fact that he and Cam Ward have been connecting out there, which is not something we saw a ton of on the deep passes from Will Levis last year, even in camp, and that spoiled over into the regular season as well. So I want to drill down a little bit further with you on that. What is specifically, when you're watching Ridley out there, what do you think is different about him? And if Ward and Ridley are making a lot of progress already at this point in developing that connection, how important will that be? Can that be for the Titans right out of the gate as the season begins?
Well, I think that's going to be huge because every quarterback has to have their top receiver, and we know that Ridley's the best pass catching option. So you look at it that way. But as far as just watching them play, and even Tyke Tolbert, the receiver coach, he said it himself that he seems more comfortable and confident, and then he's taking it upon himself to be a leader for the younger guys. So it's almost like he felt like a challenge, like, hey, they brought in 3 rookie receivers. It's my job to bring them along and nurture them. And I think that's what you're seeing, especially like in talking to Alec Iomanair. I always talk to him about how he just explodes off the ball and sells his routes and everything like that. And he said, that urgency that he plays with is because he watches Calvin Ridley. And I think, just that itself is something that probably is sparking him to be more productive and just be a better player.
So TD, when it comes to Cam Ward, we've talked a lot about intangibles. We just had Jeff Fisher on, and he said some of the things that he's heard and things that are very exciting. We had Stephen Holder on this week, and he had some really, I think, promising things to say from his observations. I think everybody can agree, like, so far, in terms of what you want to see from a quarterback in that way off the field with teammates, intangibly, it all looks great. My question for you is, what's your biggest tangible question about his game as we look toward camp?
Well, I think it's what we saw. Like, you look at some of the plays that he's made. We talk about the connecting with Ridley, right? There was one play where they had a twist up front, and Anthony Orji, the linebacker, the outside backer, he looped inside and he got pressure, and he was like bearing down on Cam, and Cam delivered a strike, to Ridley on a post. And mind you, this was after he made a check, so you got that. You look at the throw that he made to Gunnar Helm on the seam route just over the linebacker's shoulder. It was basically a 20-yard handoff. You look at some of the other things, the way he's connected with Xavier Restrepo across the middle, like settling in those windows and stuff like that. Iomanair on deep out-breaking routes. He's played well. And obviously you have the 3 interceptions. And, it's going to be what it's going to be. And you just got to remember, it's OTAs, minicamp. You don't get too high or too low. But still, the fact that those interceptions came, 2 of them came on like a very similar manner to where he's rolling right and try to throw left back across his body. That's something to just watch and just make sure that it doesn't, snowball into a bigger issue or a consistent habit.
So TD, we've talked about some of the concerns on the defensive side of the ball, at least from a personnel standpoint and rushing the passer and all those things. Denard Wilson, we know what his background is prior to getting here, and it's very impressive. So strictly from that standpoint, going from year 1 to year 2, what do you think is the biggest adjustment, the biggest thing that he had to learn in year 1 as a coordinator that he will improve upon and apply here in year 2?
I think it's the timing of the play call, and he said he's looking to improve from that perspective. he wants to be aggressive and blitz and know to do those types of things, but you got to have that coverage behind it. And so I think that's something that they got to figure out. Just a way to get pressure with 4 or 5. Sometimes you got to scheme that up and manufacture pressure with the extra guys. So you do it with 5. That I think is the biggest thing to me.
I think Rexrode.
So if there's a
Rexrode over there napping.
He froze for a second, but he's back.
Yeah, gosh darn it! I think my Wi-Fi now has gout too.
Oh boy.
So TD, I heard yesterday a good question about someone, not a rookie, not Cam, who you see as maybe a breakout player, and you mentioned James Williams. I find that fascinating. I mean, I think everybody's seen he obviously has a ton of physical ability. Seems like it's clicking for him. Like, how do you see that rotation working out at inside backer? And I guess if he does sort of emerge as a guy who's dependable and consistent, what does that mean at large for the defense?
Yeah, it means a lot for the defense because he's a very violent football player, former safety. So, he's still learning that position. And sometimes he runs himself out of the play. That's what happened a lot last year. But, when he is on, he's on. And you look at some of the games, he's impressive. So I think, if he could go ahead and become that guy next to Barton, they'll be in good shape. Barton at Mike, he will play Will. Now, what you see during OTAs and minicamp is that combination, and then Barton bounces over to Will, and Cedric Gray comes in and plays Mike. So they have a combination where they could do some different things, between those 3 players. So that's kind of how the rotation would look like if, everything falls out the way I think it will.
TD, we talked with Stephen Holder earlier this week, and it was really interesting to get his perspective on just the entire saga with Anthony Richardson and everything that's gone down with the Colts. Obviously, an important year for him heading into year 3. It is amazing. We looked at it the other day that he and Cam Ward are separated by 3 days of their age. It's pretty wild when you look at it that way. But what do you make of the situation in Indianapolis, the spot that Richardson finds himself in a quarterback battle with Daniel Jones, and how the Colts have handled this to this point?
Yeah, I think no one did a good job. Nobody in that equation. And I thought what Steven said was it was on point, the ignorance part. And again, like he said, not a bad ignorance. It's just like a true, like, man, I don't know when it comes to playing the quarterback position. And he's someone that, you knew it was going to be a project, but you gotta bring him along. And I don't think they did a good job of doing that. And now they're in a situation where who knows what is going to happen. And then, you have the shoulder that he continues to deal with. And I mean, this guy is kind of like a crash test dummy. So why are you running him all the time? His rookie year, but that's what they did. So I don't know. It's a bad situation. I thought it was interesting. Yesterday, Stillman was talking, and he's comparing the two, and he's saying, well, this is why you got to sit Cameron Ward. And it's like, well, wait a minute. These are 2 different things, right? Richardson played, 11, 12 games in college? Cam played 57. So it's different, but I did think that Steven's point was really good. And it's something that, hopefully in time, Richardson can become, an impact player for them because he's very talented.
Well, since you brought up our resident panicker about everything, TD, first of all, I really enjoyed your Father's Day story on Cam and his dad. And of course we have word this week of a 6-part doc. Now I will say, I don't know why it needs to be 6 parts. I guess I'll have to watch it and see, but I have no issue at all with this. I mean, to me, again, I'll go back to Will Levis. I mean, good thing right now he got paid for Mayo. I mean, I have no problem with any of that. If it doesn't actually impact your preparation for football, but I guess what are your thoughts on this doc and distractions and things like that when it comes to Cam Ward?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with the documentary. I think really a lot of it, like I told Stillman yesterday, a lot of that is already done because remember, it's documenting his going from a 0 star to now. So guess what has happened a lot? Most of the story, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's going to be a distraction or anything like that. It's not anything that he's pumping up or anything. He hasn't said a word about it, right? We didn't know until the release came out. So I just feel like the tendency to compare two things that have nothing to do with each other is just it's something I see, but it's like, why do it? Comparing it to the Will Levis situation, it's totally different. I mean, again, like Levis, you look, he had a history of these types of things, right? These quirky, off the field kind of things, whether it's eating a banana peel or whatever, you know what I mean? And then obviously the Mayo situation that led to the commercial. So to me, it's two different things. I think you look at Cam Ward, he's already shown that it's all football for him, and I don't think it's going to be a distraction.
Well, TD, really appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us this morning, and we will talk to you next week, my friend.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
Teron Davenport, our guest, joins us every Friday morning at 8 o'clock here on the program. We'll react to what TD had to say. We got Weekend Winners, the final edition, coming up at 8:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. I got some tickets to give away to the Preds Beer Festival coming up at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, June the 28th. Big caller number 6. Caller number 6. 615-737-1025. Caller 6 will win a pair of tickets to the Preds Beer Festival at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Saturday, June the 28th. Rexrode should be banned from the building that day based on the way this week has gone. Rexrode, you're not allowed at the Preds Beer Festival in your current condition.
No, I'm getting this medication, so now it's just like let her rip, baby. Just, I'll be right there at the door. People just be pouring it into my mouth.
Man, what a sight that could be.
Exactly. Gout.
Even more incentive.
This gout forever.
Even more incentive to get to the Preds Beer Festival coming up next week. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Joe, it was interesting both on the Power Hour yesterday with TD on Stillman Show and to hear him talk right there about James Williams and potentially being a breakout player. So let me ask you, rookies aside, and there are several options on the rookie front this year. If you had to pick a Titan that maybe will be better than people think heading into this year, which Titan would you pick? I know I'm absolutely putting you on the spot with this question. Sorry.
Well, they need a few of these things to emerge, like a James Williams, all of a sudden, like the light going on in him. He's always, from day one, like tremendous athlete, but like that'd be a great thing for the Titans. I mean, I hate to be obvious with it, but I mean, my pick would be J.C. Latham. I do. There's no question. You can look at the guy, and I think he said it was 33 pounds. You can see the difference. And there were times when he just wasn't quick enough against some of those edge guys last year. Obviously, he's back on the right side after the Titans assured us he was a left tackle, but I think he's the obvious choice. And I think a big hope for the Titans is that on the other side of the ball, it's the other high pick from last year, Tavondre Sweat, that he becomes more of an impact player. He was fine last year. You saw some good things, but you need a lot more than that.
You know who needs to be on the defensive side of the ball? L'Jarius Sneed. That'd be great.
Well, there you go.
It'd be real good if it was L'Jarius Sneed on the defensive side of the ball that gives us more than maybe we think heading into this year. Look, there's a lot of skepticism about L'Jarius Sneed. Very understandably so, given his off-the-field situation and the injury situation that he's been dealing with. If I could pick one on the defensive side of the ball, that's probably who I would pick. Like that would be my guess as to how that goes on the defensive side of the ball there. I think Skoronski. Skoronski would be my pick on the offensive side of the ball. Not saying he's going to be an all-pro or anything, but I do think if you watch him last year, I thought he got a lot better as the season went on. And again, as I've talked about, do I believe that Skoronski, we're ever going to look at him and say, yeah, that guy was worth the 11th overall pick? No, I do not believe that. But at this point, I would take good starter for several years. And I think he will give you this year. I think we're going to see, and if we don't, it's a big problem. I think we're going to see good starter play from Peter Skoronski this year. That is my pick, Joe. Hold me to it on June the 20th.
So if it's like Skoronski, Latham, Sweat, if they, Williams, Sneed, let's say you get close to best case scenario with these guys, does someone apologize to Rand?
I don't know.
Because I've been told that he's the worst GM ever who ran the team into the ground.
Levis comes in off the bench.
That one
chucking it around the yard.
Yeah, that one may be a little bit of a far-fetched idea. But those other guys are like, these are some of the guys that they've chosen to, put in their foundation, and they are still here with hope that they'll be better. And at this point, none of them have been. Well, I guess Sneed. Yeah, Sneed's been a disaster. I mean, in the 1 year, like you can't really have much worse than no practice, barely play, different injury, and then also you have a legal situation. But you know,
hard to get a whole lot worse.
But again, like it's still like these stories still have not finished. I'm just saying. Also, Robbie, I have to say this here. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Can I just like the text line? Like I can't always tell if people are being serious, right? So Caleb's like one can, yeah, I know. One can argue. I mean, like Big Joe is full. You know, I've got him tagged. But Caleb says one can argue the Mayo stuff did affect his ability to prepare based off how he played. LOL. And then I said it's absolutely absurd. And then he said he's haha sarcasm kind of. Then he says don't be so liberal, man. Liberal, is that like a Mayo thing? Like if I enjoy mayo on my sandwiches,
He said
literal.
Like,
have we made that? Oh,
reading is hard.
Yeah, I literally not only have gout, but now my eyesight is failing me. Dude, I'm looking at it right from here, and it totally looks like a B. Sorry, this goes back to the Caitlin Clark discussion yesterday that hasn't been resolved either. So how about we just tell me to fart off?
Rexrode has been determined cannot read on the program here today. Which will be an interesting strategy coming up in weekend winners if he can't read any of the picks he's making.
That actually may be a gout side effect. I'm not sure.
I hope not. I hope not. Could be seeing the deterioration of Rexrode right before our eyes. Speaking of weekend winners,
it's pretty obvious.
We do have that coming up next, the final edition. And let me tell you, I'll give you the standings update coming up next. It is a very tight competition heading into the final week, and we will get to that coming up next. Take your thoughts, your picks. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, the game.
It's time to pick some winners. We hope. Robby and Rexrode have weekend winners for you. Now
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is time for the final edition of the summer of weekend winners here on the program. The NBA Finals have stretched to Game 7. The College World Series Final coming up this weekend. We'll get to all that and more in weekend winners. A standings update in the competition, Ian and Joe, as we head into the final week here. A very tight competition. I am in first with an overall record of 52-44, 11-5 on my locks, which is the difference, 63 points. Ian Safar has come charging all the way back from last place when he took over for Nick Keyser. He is 54-42 overall, 8-8 on his locks, 62 points, one back of me. Joe Rexrode, 52-44, the same record that I have, 9-7 on his locks, 61 points. So 63 points for me, 62 for Ian, 61 for Rexrode, which means, fellas, it's anybody's competition as we head into the final edition of Weekend Winners here on the program. So with all that behind us, Joe, we begin with Pacers and OKC coming up in Game 7 on Sunday night. The Thunder, an 8.5-point favorite on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I will begin here. Give me the Thunder. I think they pull away very late. And I think it's a close game throughout. And free throws at the end of the game extend this thing out to a bigger margin of victory than the game actually suggests it would be. But I will take the Thunder minus the 8.5. Ian Safar, Thunder and Pacers, Game 7. Oklahoma City favored by 8.5.
Man, this is a tough one. I was going back and forth pretty much last night, once we kind of talked about weekend winners coming back this week. I think I'm going to take the Pacers plus the 8.5. I wouldn't be surprised if OKC won, of course, but I think I'm going to take the points. I think both teams are going to play really hard, and when both teams bring the passion in this series or in the playoffs, it's been close games. So give me the points.
Going Pacers plus the 8.5 coming up on Sunday night. Joe Rexrode, Thunder, Pacers, Game 7. Thunder favored by 8.5.
2 points before I make my pick. One, Robby tried to cheat and end the competition when he was ahead this week. So we stopped that. Thank goodness. And two, Ian, you owe Connor Newt like a big head. Yeah, 5-1 with a lock for Connor Newt coming in big time.
That is clutch.
A week ago, putting me in a position to lose and have to buy the pizza and beer, which I can now take because I'm going to get some allopurinol. I'm going to go with the Pacers. And again, maybe this is me. Bet with my heart. I one thing I need to be different than Robby anyway, but I think that they're going to give us a great game. Again, maybe it's hoping more than thinking, but I'm going to go with it.
Going with the Pacers plus the 8.5. The College World Series final is set. It is Coastal Carolina taking on LSU, and we are picking the series winner. So who we think will be the national champion between those two. Ian Safar, you're up first. Who wins between Coastal Carolina and LSU?
Well, I'd like to see Coastal Carolina win just because, I like to root for the underdog, but I will take LSU.
Going with the Tigers to take down the Chanticleers in the College World Series final. Joe Rexrode, LSU, and Coastal Carolina coming up.
25 in a row, man, or 26 in a row. What the heck is it? The Chanticleers are the team of destiny. I think it was it also 9 years ago with that? We've been comparing the last Game 7 of the NBA Finals and that surprising result on the road. And I think it was the same year that Coastal Carolina went into Omaha and just won the whole darn thing. And I think they're going to do it again.
Joe is going with the Chanticleers in the competition. Give me LSU. I'll go with the Tigers. I think LSU gets it done, and they win the national title. And Arkansas will just be crushing themselves for letting it get away from them. But LSU wins and keeps it in the SEC after Tennessee won last year. We move to the individual portion of the program. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
Let me just tell you right now, it has not worked for me. And if I would have probably done different things, I'd probably be in good shape. But I don't care. I don't even know who the Chicago White Sox play in the next 4 games, but they're going to lose 4 straight games.
It's Toronto this weekend for sure.
I don't even care what Great. They're at Toronto. Toronto's going to sweep them. And I'll just make today's game the lock, and you just go from there. Chicago White Sox are going to lose 4 straight games, and I'm going to win the championship. Thank you, White Sox.
Guarantee.
So Toronto -1.5 against the White Sox. Rexrode is picking 4 consecutive losses from the White Sox, a strategy to this point in the competition that has not worked out very well.
Okay, Monday they play Arizona.
Monday against the Diamondbacks. So it would be a combination of 3 losses to Toronto and then on Monday against the Arizona Diamondbacks that will determine Rexrode's results in these competitions. He is locking down on today's result, Toronto -1.5 against the White Sox. So we will see what happens on that front and whether or not Rexrode's persistence in hating the Chicago White Sox pays off at the end of the year. Ian Safar, your first individual selection.
Okay, I will get my lock out of the way. I will take the Yankees tonight, -1.5 versus Baltimore.
Guarantee.
Yankees -1.5 against the Orioles, and Ian locking down on that selection tonight. Give me Scotty Scheffler today. The over-under for his round at the Travelers Championship is 66.5. I will take the under. Like me, under 66.5. He shoots a 65 right on the dot today, baby. Give me 65 for Scotty Scheffler, but I'll take the under 66.5. Ian Safar, since we can't go back to Rexrode, he's laid out every pick he's making in one pick. We're going to Ian Safar for pick number 2 in the competition.
The Mets just got swept by the Braves. I think they've lost 6 in a row. Make it 7 tonight. Philly -1.5 versus the Mets.
Phillies -1.5 against the Mets. Ian Safar's beloved Mets struggling out there right now. So he's going with Philadelphia. Going back to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, the over-under is at 215. I think you're going to see an incredible defensive effort from both teams. I will take the under of 215 in the matchup between the Pacers and the Thunder coming up in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Ian Safar, your third individual selection.
Okay. I've been burned by these guys a handful of times this season.
You have. I know where you're
I'm going back and forth. I'm just not on a roll. I was contemplating what to do last week for weekend winners. I didn't actually get asked, so I'm glad, Connor held it strong for me because I'm not sure I would have got this right. But I'm Nashville SC win on the road, New England.
Nashville SC coming through in the clutch for Ian in the final week of the competition, taking a win on the road.
I believe it's on the road.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
So a win against New England is Ian's pick this weekend. Nashville SC's let him down a couple times.
They have. They've been winning. I can't get the wins and I can't get the draws. I'm going dub. Just bring it.
Give me the LA Dodgers -1.5 tonight against the Washington Nationals. And Ian, make it my lock. I am locking down on the LA Dodgers tonight against the Washington Nationals. And we'll see how that goes for me. -1.5. Ian, your final individual selection.
Okay. I will take the Phillies on Saturday. -1.5. Keep it rolling. Mets are struggling. Maybe they'll get one, but I'm going to go with the odds. Just keep it until they prove otherwise. I will take the Phillies on Saturday as well, -1.5.
Going Philadelphia Saturday, -1.5 against the New York Mets. My final individual selection for this year's competition. Give me the Texas Rangers tonight, -1.5 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I avoided selecting the Colorado Rockies, which has been a staple of our program throughout the competition. It has gone very well for us who have picked against the Colorado Rockies.
Although lately, not so bad
They've
for the
heated
Rockies.
up a little bit. It really kind of started when I picked the Yankees -1.5.
Yeah, maybe they hit rock bottom.
And that was probably it at that point. But I will go with the Rangers -1.5 against the Pittsburgh Pirates coming up tonight. So we got Rexrode putting his entire faith in the Chicago White Sox, which have been a thorn in his side in the competition all season long. Gentlemen, good luck to you this weekend. It's going to be an outstanding competition all the way down to the very end. Rexrode may never be on our program again because he can't get the Zoom part of this figured out, which is absolutely hilarious. So it's a good thing that he made all of his picks. Maybe this was a preemptive strike by Rexrode. He made every single one of his picks before he just got absolutely booted off of the show. Rexrode, do we have you back?
I guess, yeah. My Zoom has gout. Remind me, I missed your Game 7 finals over under is what? And you picked what?
Under 215 with the Pacers and the Thunder.
215 under. Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm expecting great defensive intensity by the Thunders and the Pacers.
I like
coming
that.
Up Game 7.
Yeah, Game 7, full effort from both teams. You would expect desperation. I could see the under on that.
We'll see how it goes. A very tight competition in weekend winners coming up in the final weekend of the competition. We will wrap up the show coming up next. Got some rapid fire thoughts to get to on our text line. We will revisit the NBA finals from last night. Rexrode's article that he brought up earlier from the New York Times about the ridiculous cost of being a sports fan, which we've had a lot of reaction to on the program here today. We'll get into all that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby and Rexrode brought to you by First Horizon. Big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Caleb on the YouTube chat saying, that's a real pick, Robby. Talking about my Scheffler pick. Not this whoever plays the Rockies or White Sox nonsense. Taking some shots at Rexrode as we close out the program here today. Rexrode, your response. Are you taking the easy way out against the Chicago White Sox? And we've now had Rexrode kicked out of the Zoom again. Rexrode really struggling on the Wi-Fi part of this. We'll get that Rexrode reconnected here shortly.
That's a good frozen shot right
really
there.
Is a nice frozen shot of Rexrode on the stream out there. Really good stuff. I do want to get back to some news and notes that we mentioned earlier in the show.
He's taking shots. He's taking shit.
Boy, he is on the struggle bus today. I do want to get back to some news and notes earlier in the program that we got to on the NHL front. Mason Marchment traded yesterday from the Dallas Stars to the Seattle Kraken. So he goes in exchange for a 4th-round pick this year, a 3rd-round pick next year, and had some thoughts on Predators Twitter yesterday. I had a couple friends text me about the idea of, all right, well, the Predators just traded for Eric Holla the day before, and Mason Marchment was available. Why didn't the Predators try to go after Mason Marchment? Now, first off, I have no idea whether or not the Predators tried to go after Mason Marchment or not. Maybe they did, and it just didn't work out. As I pointed out earlier in the show, a little bit more difficult to make those type of trades within the division. Dallas, naturally, probably just a little bit more willing to send him elsewhere outside of the division than they would be to the Predators. But make of that what you will. Marchment now out. Some interesting decisions that the Stars are going to have to make. Matt Duchene, who the Predators, as we know, are still paying, re-signed with Dallas yesterday. So a 4-year deal for Matt Duchene, getting paid $4.5 million per season. So you've got that part of it to deal with. McDavid making headlines yesterday. He was asked, 11 times at his end of season media availability yesterday about his future in Edmonton, and basically said he's in no rush to sign. Says if he feels like he can win there over and over again, he'll have no problem signing in Edmonton, but wants to keep the options open. And from him talking yesterday, I would not expect the deal immediately on July 1st, but we'll see how that works out with Connor McDavid and Sam Bennett as the Florida Panthers were parading the Stanley Cup around Miami last night. Got on the microphone at a nightclub and said that in Leonardo DiCaprio style that he ain't leaving and that he's not going anywhere in Florida. So we'll see from a contractual standpoint how that ends up playing out. But, Joe, if you're a Predators fan out there that is looking for Sam Bennett in free agency to come in and save the day, number one, I would advise you to revisit Barry Trotz's comments about how I don't think they're going to be all that active in free agency. And number two, I don't think Sam Bennett is going to make it to free agency. I think he's going to re-sign in Florida.
Yeah, and if you did make it to free agency, I don't think you'd get him anyway. So like it's not even worth talking about. The two deals the last 2 days, I mean, it's just bad. It's just bad timing for Trotz just because by comparison, it's like, wait a minute, you could have done this for similar cost, but you did that instead. Hall of Famer. So, another reason for Preds fans to be a little bit upset and shaky with where things are going. By the way, I just like to point out, Robby, that Caleb's shot was also a shot at you because you do the Rockies thing a lot.
I have done the Rockies thing a lot. I don't know that I've ever done an entire weekend of the Rockies, so I'm gonna assume it's just a shot at you.
I'm carving out new territory in weekend winners. I'm not afraid to be a trailblazer.
You're not.
And the White Sox are finally going to make it all worthwhile, and then I'm going to taunt Ryan from Chicago.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, your hatred for the White Sox has a chance to pay off coming up this weekend.
Strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
So, Joe, we had a very interesting discussion earlier in the show about a piece at the New York Times basically highlighting the high cost of being a sports fan. And if you missed that, you can go check it out, Robby and Rexrode, wherever you get your podcast. But bottom line, as we kind of sifted through all that stuff earlier, how do you feel today about where all this is headed and what this is going to mean for the future of sports fans about the cost, going to games, season tickets, TV deals coming up in all these respective sports, and what that can mean for the cost of the everyday sports fan?
I think that it's a really good piece because it lays out, especially like the differences. I mean, one of the things that he laid out was basically, the gigantic jump in what it costs to follow the Boston Red Sox now, and how it's like 262% or whatever in the last 20 years, whereas wages have gone up 87%. And so it's like, it's just harder and harder for people who don't have just endless amounts of discretionary income to be sports fans. I think the big thing that I take away from it is college sports leaders are out here desperately trying to get Congress to help them out with an antitrust exemption, and I just don't see it happening. They're not going to come together on something, but I think that's where maybe we need to look in terms of just slowing down some of these things that are happening. And if these sports leagues, which used to understand like the bigger picture of this is a civic thing, you want to create fandom, you want generational fandom, you want people to have access to your teams, now have just gone into what makes me the most bucks. However, like, again, I'll have an antiseptic, stadium, maybe the new Nissan Stadium. Half the tickets are corporate tickets, but I'll make the money. This is where I think that actually there can be some things in Washington that can, again, like the blackout thing is one thing we talked about, and even just some of the things to slow down this. It's just a greed train that ends up making people have to have 9 different streaming services. I mean, Jared did a good job of laying that out earlier. If you're a Yankees fan, how many different things that you have to subscribe to if you want to watch them, where it used to be, one place that you could watch them, for example. So I like the discussion in the piece. I hope like people pay attention to it, and some things can actually be done.
It's going to be very interesting to see and monitor over the next few years, especially some of these TV deals are coming up, what that looks like and how that affects the cost and the availability and all that. I do want to, again, thank our listeners for their interest in my movie watching habits and the fact that Office Space was finally tackled by me last night. Joe, if you missed my full review of it, you can check it out. We began the show with it. But are you satisfied with my Robbie Stanley movie review rating of 7.1 out of 10 for Office Space?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the question I would say it's not a perfect movie, but like I've watched it many times and I laugh every time I watch it. Like, would you agree that that's one of those movies that like it's kind of essential if you love comedies for people now that you've seen it, like it's in terms of just like the lines that have survived the test of time and just some of the characters that it's one of those, like, if you're telling people, okay, here's the comedies you need to watch, it would be on the list of like unessentials.
I would agree. Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed it yesterday. Thoroughly.
This is great. I love it. And I hope if you're listening and you haven't seen it, that you'll see it. And now I think we just need to continue, to progress. I have my dream. It's like, I'd like to teach the world to sing and, get perfect harmony and everybody have a Coke. I would like everybody in the world to watch This Is Spinal Tap, which I think is possibly the greatest movie ever made. So maybe we need to work on that.
At some point over the next year and a half, I will work This Is Spinal Tap in the rotation. Have you seen it?
I have seen bits and pieces of Spinal Tap over the years. It's been so long, so I don't know. I know some of the one-liners, crank it up to 11, that kind of stuff. But I'd have to sit down and rewatch it. Maybe that'll be something I can do before training camp.
Maybe so.
Maybe we can have a listener event. How about a listener event and then Big Joe can MC and we can all watch Spinal Tap?
Movie night with Robby and Rexrode.
Let's do it.
I kind of dig it. Joe, you're going to be off next week, so I hope you have a wonderful week away from the program, and we will see you when you get back.
Thanks. Let's hope the gout leaves at some point.
Let's hope that happens. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.